Into this video, we are going to help you to figure out how to have more sex in your relationship. So Kevin and I have been together for 6 years. We've been married for half of that, and we are very familiar with ups and downs and just keeping things flowing and going. And we are going to give you our best tips to have more sex in your relationship. I am Celine Remy, the Intimacy Angel.
And I'm Kevin Anthony, the Truth Warrior. And if you've ever wanted more sex in your relationship, raise your hand. And make sure that you like, share, and subscribe.
The number one thing to understand when it comes to your relationship and sex is you got to focus on what you have rather than what you don't have. So we're going to have to switch the tables around and be focusing more on the positive, on the goodness of it, rather than all the things that don't work. You've got to have a balance of 80% positive to 20% negative ratio. If you want to go 90% positive, be my guest, that's fine too. But the thing is, what happens is that most people start to focus, we don't have sex, or it wasn't good, or it's not happening, and that's all they talk about or think until they stop talking about it. And that first piece, understanding that you've got to remember what brought you together, you've got to focus on what you currently already have and experience. It is going to help you shift and cultivate an attitude of gratitude and have more appreciation, which will make you want to have more sex.
Okay, so now let's talk about the nuts and bolts of it. Number one, schedule time. We tell people this all the time, and they're like, oh, but it's not spontaneous, and I don't like it when it... Look, do you want to have more sex or not? We live in a very busy world, and every year that goes by, life just seems to speed up, and there seem to be more things that you have to do. So if you want to make sure that you're having sex, you're going to have to set aside some time. You don't have to schedule everything, okay, at 6:15 we do this, and at 6:20 we do that. Just say, hey, on Tuesday night, we're going to set aside a block of time where we're not going to do anything else, and we're just going to connect physically.
This has helped us during difficult times because we knew that we had this time. Now there's no pressure that it has to lead anywhere. It's simply about creating intimacy and connection. And we just show up independently of how we feel, of how excited we are. And it's simply the whole practice of showing up and being present with your partner that makes a big difference. Now I know some people and some experts say, oh, scheduling sex is the most boring and it kills the passion. It is true that comfort is basically the opposite of the passion, because passion comes when you thrive and you have a difference and you're opposite. When you have so much comfort and ease, it kind of brings you more into the neutral zone of the arousal of the libido rather than on opposite, which attracts. However, when you are in a relationship, it's a little bit different how the rules apply. You will need to still find ways to create these like polarity and differences in doing new things, but it doesn't have to always be in the bedroom. Sex is not the only place that you can bring in newness.
And you can still have spontaneous sex, just make sure that you have some time set aside in case those moments for spontaneous sex don't happen. All right. You kind of alluded to number two already in what you were talking about, which is to let go of expectations of how it should look. This is big. So the problem that a lot of people run into is, well, sex needs to look like this. We have to do these positions and it should last this long, and he or she has to have this many orgasms, or I have to have an ejaculation. You put a lot of pressure on the situation about how it should happen. Now, one thing that happens when you put pressure on women for how sex has to happen, they're suddenly not really interested in sex anymore. So if you want to have more sex, you need to take all that pressure off the table and say, hey, we set aside time. Tuesday, we're going to make time to be physical, but it can go anywhere. It can look like anything. There's no expectation.
Yeah, and what's great about it is that it can be mind-blowing sex. It could be a very gentle sex. It could be no sex, but just naked cuddles. It could be hugging, crying together, like whatever is alive in that moment, but that connects you heart to heart with one another. Now, I've also alluded to our point number 3 earlier when I said to try new things. And this is something really important to bring in. So because you've scheduled some sex and some date night or afternoon, whenever you want that, you have to bring in some of the newness element that will bring that creativity, energy, and that passion. Now, it doesn't have to be in the bedroom. You don't have to go and read the Kama Sutra, buy 100 different sex toys and try all of that. It could simply be to go take a painting class, to go on a different walk, to read a different book, to do things differently. And it's also fun if you can do those together because again, it takes you out of the routine. And then it brings out new things in each other, and you might see new things that had attracted you in the past in your partner, and it just revives all of these feelings.
All right, the next one is to give each other what you want. It sounds super basic, right? But if you want somebody to want more of something, you're going to give them what they want. You're not going to give them like some horrible meal that they don't like and then expect that they're going to want more of that meal, right? Of course not. So when you are having sex, make sure that you're giving your partner the kind of sex that they want, that they crave, because then they will want more.
And if you don't know what that is, then that leads to our next point, which is to talk about sex, because you're going to have discussions. Now, it's not something that happens when you're having sex, but talk about sex at dinner time, go out on a date and talk about your sex life, whatever that is. Make time to explore that, explore different things. And it's just about being willing to, let's say you've never had a particular scenario, like each of you give your opinion on this and see if there's a way that you want to try that, if it's a turn on or turn off, because then you get to know more about each other. This takes courage, but also authenticity and integrity. You have to have finesse, because you're not just gonna blurt it out like you suck in bed, you know, that nobody wants to hear that, right? And so
don't say that.
You know, you might say things like, you know, I know you're trying your best and you're doing everything you can, but I've learned that what works for me is this or that, or I really enjoy a specific light touch on my clitoris or something like that. May I show it to you? Can we talk about that? So again, remember the first point that I was talking about focusing on the positive. When you talk about sex, focus on all the things that work and try to motivate your partner through this appreciation and the positive things that you like, rather than pointing out all the things they're doing wrong, because that's not going to motivate the person.
Okay, and the very last one on the list is to create circumstances that are conducive to sex. What does that even mean? It's a mouthful of words. What it means is you've got to create situations. I'll give you an example. Women are like, do it all. Like they have a million things, especially if you have kids, and they're going to get it all done in the day. And they're going to prioritize making sure that the kids' lunch stuff is ready for the morning, or that the laundry's done, or all of those things have to happen. And if they don't happen, then they're running around in her mind the whole time, and then she's laying there, and then you're like, why are you not really being present? Why are you not turned on, right? Because there's too much going on in her head. So one thing that you can do, and it works in both directions, I'm just giving that as one example, but one thing that you can do is, if she's running around like crazy trying to get stuff done and you're sitting there on your phone, or, you know, I don't know, watching the news, I hope you don't do that, but doing something like that, maybe you could say, hey, you know what, that last thing on your list, while you're doing this over here, I'm going to take care of that for you. I'm going to take that off your plate so that you can then let go of it and relax.
That's good advice. So give it a try and see where it goes. We hope today's video was inspiring and helpful. Put all of this into place and enjoy the rewards of so much more sex in your sex life. And we will see you in our next video.